Seraphim 17 once again. This is Zoe 2 on Extreme. This is Margaritifer, I believe. It is post the Leo fight. We're on Mars, and we're about to get attacked by some Naras. So the Naras are an interesting enemy. They're extremely quick, they're extremely good at comboing, but they're pretty weak. And there's an achievement for killing them all in under 90 seconds, but I would never recommend doing it on this difficulty. That is the combo that Narita does. Extremely dangerous, as is his big thrust, which you can't block it when he charges into you like that, so you need to be really careful. And these enemies are more than capable of killing you, just like everything else on this difficulty, because their ability to evade and counterpunch you and just deal damage quickly and kill you before you even know you died is pretty high, so you need to be super careful with them. And the strategy that I like against the Naras is if you throw a geyser at them to immobilize them, you can then grab them and you're immortal while you grab. And if you've ever played God of War, you'll know that grabbing is one of the most important parts of that game, because not only is it extremely powerful, but it makes it so that you can't be damaged for a lot of the animation. This game is equally as important as that. I would actually go as far as saying that this game's more important, because on God of War you can block everything. On this game you pretty much can't, and that is always one of the things that was the safest part about God of War for me, which always made it, you know, not as severe as a Ninja Gaiden, or not as severe as some of the other games of that caliber, because you knew you were safe, even though you had, you know, 5 big dudes attacking you. And don't get me wrong, there were certain enemies you couldn't block, but for the most, you knew when you were safe. But this game, wow, these enemies are so mischievous. Even the smallest guy, even the raptor, every so often you'll get one that turns into Muhammad Ali and he'll just decide to beat you up for no real. But anyone who follows me on Twitter will have noticed that the other day I mentioned one checkpoint on this game was harder than some of the guides that I'd recorded, and this is that checkpoint. It's so strange, guys. It's gone from being, you know, little pockets of challenge that are generally 1 to 4 minutes long, to this gauntlet of bad checkpoints, bad information on my part, and just pure misery. And I also found out that the save system on this game is just like the PS2 version, and by that I mean it's not very good. And what happens is, this sequence we have to destroy 2 generators to open a locked door, and once you destroy 1 generator you get a checkpoint. It's extremely difficult to do this though, because the very final window has a cellar, and that is the enemy spawning like nucleus that I've mentioned, or that you've seen in previous videos. And I gave wrong information in a previous video, saying that the cellars never spawn anything that's of real threat. Well, they do, guys, and I just didn't, you know, I've never played on this difficulty. I went as high as very hard, and I said I'd never go higher, because, you know, back in the day I wasn't all that great at games, and I wasn't, you know, all that masochistic. But the cellars give birth to mummy heads, and mummy heads are the most dangerous enemy on the game, even more so than the clods. And I hate the clods, because the one thing that you know about the clods is all they want to do is grab you. That is it. They live to grab you. They're huggers. It's who they are. They're like bears. They just love that shit. And that's all they're going to try and do. They're going to try and bring you to them so that they can grab you. The mummy heads don't. The mummy heads have a system where they can shoot while they have their shield up, which is really cheesy. Not only that, but they have like a second chance, because the raptor that's piloting it inside can come out and mess you up. They do that just then, where they fire those cheeky rockets at you. And then they have the most dangerous attack on the game, which is the halberd, which they charge it so quickly, they move surprisingly fast while they're doing it, and if they hit you with it, sometimes the stun locking is so severe you just can't move. And the thing with it is, when you're getting stun locked, you just, there's nothing you can do. It's crazy. There's times when it looks like you're just standing there taking a beating for no reason, but it's literally because Jehuti will not move. And I found out that just because you can't dash doesn't mean you can't block. And don't get me wrong, blocking is useful, but sometimes it's not that great, because when you put your block up, the enemies are so clever that they will immediately try and burst through it, which is an unblockable attack. And if they don't do that, a few of them will try and grab you. So do not think you're safe behind your block, because you're not. It's just if you ever get stun locked and you need to try and at least save some life or stay alive, the best thing you can do is throw your shield up, because it's, you know, it's the one thing stopping you from just getting beat up on. But yeah, the cellar spawners, oh, they're so terrible. Really, really terrible. And they won't make this difficult, because one of the problems that I have with this game is the fact that the lock-on on it is trash. The priority system on the lock-on makes no sense. Did you notice how we've just locked onto something through the geometry, but we didn't lock onto everything we could see? It's so weird how it's been made, and it makes it really frustrating. And the strategy that you're going to be using if you follow this video to get through this canyon is, when you get to the cellar, there are about 5 enemies. 2 of them are mummy heads, 2 of them are raptors, and 1 of them is a cyclops. And if you kill them, they'll come back. They keep coming back. That's what the cellar does. And you need to destroy the cellar. So the strategy that I stumbled across is, I killed the mummy heads, and it didn't activate a respawn, so the only things that were left were the raptors and the cyclops, and then from then on I kited the enemies and killed the cellar. It's not as easy as it sounds, and you can fuck it up, and you have to do this entire canyon again, because the checkpoint, as I've mentioned, is very cruel. The one benefit of this is that you learn it. You learn the enemies, you get better at fighting them. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, you know, all that good stuff. Sometimes you get unlucky because the AI just beats you up, but it proves to be quite annoying, and the one thing that you can't rely on is this being 100% proof, because there are times when I've killed the mummy heads and it's respawned them immediately. It seems to be a little bit unpredictable. So one thing that I would advise, if you're having troubles getting the mummy heads to stay gone, is to just destroy the armor so that they don't have the mummy head capability. Because, as you know if you've played, when you kill the mummy head frame, it turns into a standard raptor, because technically it's kind of like a vehicle. He's driving it. It's like a suit of armor for him. But this is going to be me doing it. But I did mention that the saves were kind of broken, and then I went on a big tangent to kind of complete that thought process. I did this first generator, and it took me about an hour and a half. It took me quite a long time. In fact, it might have taken me longer because I was getting really frustrated with it and it was pissing me off. But I finally did it. I got to the checkpoint and I was like, thank you. Now I can go to bed. Now I can, you know, regroup my thoughts, recover, come back at it fresh, and it'll probably not be nowhere near as difficult as I thought it was. And when I turned the game on the following day, I was back at the start of the gates before I'd even destroyed one of the generators. So I got completely screwed by a checkpoint. The only pro that you can take from that situation is the knowledge that you've done it once, so you can do it again. But at the same time, I was really disheartened. So just be careful with the checkpoints, guys. And the best way to tell that you're never going to have to do a section again is when you save. It generally tells you where you are in the game. If the save file says you are where where you're struggling, then don't stop until you're past it, and don't stop until it updates the title. But this is me kiting a bunch of the enemies away from the cellar, killing the mummy heads so that I can get back over here, lock onto this, and then do some damage to it. And all we're going to do now, as I've mentioned, is we're going to kite these enemies and we're going to attack this cellar. Because there's no mummy heads, you're not safe, because the enemies that are here are more than capable of killing you, but nowhere near as quick or as lethally as the damn mummy heads would. So this is it, guys. This is the bit that takes a while to get to, but once you're here, as long as you don't choke, you will kill this cellar and you'll be fine. And it's kind of sad too, because later on in the game you get the ability called decoy, and it is the perfect sub-weapon for this kind of situation. You get all the enemies on you, you lead them the way, you drop a decoy, and then you go and beat the cellar up. It's such a cool strategy and it works, but you don't get it until, a point where you do have to use it and it comes super in handy, but it would have helped here a lot more, I think. But just be very careful. Do not mess with the lock-on button. Do not go too far away from the cellar, or the game will automatically change your lock and you'll have to come back close, mess around with the, no lock-on bullshit, trying to get locked onto the cellar. But one of the funniest things I found while playing this game on Extreme is the areas that I found difficult when I was younger, I've not had any trouble with. It's all the other stuff that I never even struggled with at all, as I've just lost my lock there and put myself in a really bad situation. And one thing I found as well, when you're not locked onto anything, it's almost like the enemies have a tougher time locking onto you. I don't know if that's completely true, and I don't know how well you can exploit it, but it's through the same logic that when the enemies are off screen, they don't seem to attack. It seems to be similar to the Devil May Cry mantra. They have to be on screen to do their moves. So, you know, see no evil, hear no evil might be a pretty good strategy at certain times. But as I was saying, I've never struggled with this canyon. Not even once. Even on very hard, I don't think I struggled with it, which just goes to show the difference in the difficulty jump. And, like, sections I was really scared about. The Arjet section where you have to fight Neath in Arjet's body, where, like, it's a bullshit fight because it takes so long on the harder difficulties, but I did it first time, and it was simple. It just takes long, and it's not fun. And then the section afterwards where you have to escort her, I remember that being a complete nightmare when I was younger. And I did it first time. It wasn't easy, it was rough, but we got through it. And then there's other sections like the Clod room with Neath, where you've got to pick up a Clod and use it to block her attack or beat her up and then attack her. I've never struggled in that room, and she destroyed me for about an hour. And I am going to call bullshit on a lot of that, because it starts you about 5 yards away from a Clod, and the first thing it does is it vacuums you towards it and it grabs you. And it's hilarious because, well, it's not hilarious, it got me frustrated to tits, but it says, you know, you can evade the Clod's grab in the split second it tries to grab you, and that thing must have grabbed me about 40 times, and I never evaded that grab. But that is the first generator down, guys. We have to do the exact same thing on another one now, so if you didn't enjoy that section, you're not going to enjoy the next one. It's not easy, but it's possible, and hopefully that will give you some solace. So thank you for watching, and you take care.